beating up bosses in Where Winds Meet can be quite the challenge. So I want to go over 5 key tips to make it significantly easier. Don't make the mistakes I did when starting out. Now, I beat 5 bosses on the maximum difficulty of Legend before really coming to these realizations, and it led me through a pretty frustrating time. I was getting pretty sick of these bosses because all it really boiled down to was parrying. If you didn't parry, you'd be dead, and if you didn't parry, you wouldn't deal a lot of damage. Now, while a lot of that still remains true, there's still a whole bunch of things you can do to make this so much easier for yourself. Even when these bosses have a negative 80% reduction to your healing output. So tip number 1 is your healing potions. You're going to use these to heal up, and you have a certain limit. For me now, it is 4 between every rest period, or 4 times every time you die. You can increase this limit even further by visiting this NPC, and you request to submit medical tales. And this is where you can see the exact benefits per level. You will start out with only having the use of 2 potions per boss fight. So what you can do is collect these tales and level that up. Even getting to level 11, I'll be able to use 5 between boss fights. It is also very important to level these up to make sure that these heal pots actually heal you for a scalable amount compared to your hit points, as I'm nearly 30,000 now, and if I had my health pots only healing me 4,000, that would be nothing. You can go to your profession, your healer here, medicine, and you can craft them using these materials. You can see where you can get them right here, but you will have to level up your healing profession as well using career books, which are very easily obtained through the season shop here every week. You can see exactly how to get those medical tales by simply clicking on it. All of these activities. So do that and make sure you can have those extra heals in those fights. And that will go a long way to improve your survivability so you can actually beat these bosses. The next tip is for your gear and breakthroughs. Be aware every time you do a breakthrough, you're increasing the difficulty of all the mobs and bosses on your map. It will even give you a warning when you do a breakthrough. And you do have the option of going back. But whenever you break through, you want to develop your gear. You need to be upgrading your weapon so you can actually output good damage, and you need to be enhancing your gear and improving that average level. I am quite a bit behind. I should be at level 20 on everything. But even with that, I can still fairly comfortably beat these bosses. But it would make it easier for myself to get these upgrades, as I would increase my hit points, my damage reduction, and my damage output. All very important. And the gear itself that you equip, also try and make sure that it is the highest level stuff you can use. You can also min-max further and go for pieces that have set bonuses, but that will require you to do content to farm gear drops. And that's mainly things that uses energy, like outposts, or even going back and doing bosses that you've already beat again. The third tip is your mystic skills. Do not underestimate how much damage they can actually provide. I'm talking about these ones. Just look at your Drunken Poet. The amount of damage this can accumulate across all of its hits is not to be underestimated. When you do finally break the boss's chi, we can use, for example here, this Drunken Poet and deal upwards of 5,000 damage with it, and then the following combo is dealing over 30,000 cumulative damage. So again, when you break the boss's chi by mainly blocking and parrying those attacks, you can use those mystic skills rather than your active skills to output a ton of extra damage before you use that counter attack. And this allows you to massively chunk down the enemy's hit points and just get through those boss fights way quicker than you normally would. I'm currently working towards getting the dragon head as well. I will have to increase my maximum vitality a bit to actually use it, and I want to check out how effective that is. There are other skills that I haven't unlocked as well that could be useful for extra damage for that period as well, and maybe even using just to CC the boss. So do not underestimate these abilities, and they're just something I underutilized starting out. I didn't unlock any good damage ones until later, and I mainly assumed they'd be things you'd use to primarily solve puzzles. Additionally, your inner ways. There can be some very potent ones here you can unlock, giving you some extra damage boosts, extra life leech, and defense shred so you can output even more damage. And I believe the big grind is actually going to be upgrading these, as you can make them give even bigger benefits. But to actually get these pages takes quite a long time. And yes, make sure you're actually upgrading those mystic skills as well, up to the tier that is your breakthrough. Right now, we can't go any further until we get the next breakthrough to 56. You can again clearly see where the materials come from by simply clicking on them. The fourth tip is oddities. Across all the different locations, they have these oddities, and you want to collect them all. You can do this both in the first map section and in the second map section. So in the first area, you're going to have this NPC here, Melodies of Peace, and you will give those oddities to him, submitting them and gaining all these perks. I have since fully completed it. It gives you all these great bonuses like extra hit points, extra damage, vitality, etc. And at the very end, it also gives you this bell piece, which will allow you to get the bonus boss nerf. You will ring the bell here, and it gives you that wilderness boss nerf. I don't know exactly how effective it is, probably like 10% or something. One of you could enlighten me where you could see the actual effect, but I'm sure it helps, even if just in a small way. But ultimately, the culmination of all of these stat boosts can help quite a bit to get through those fights much easier. And once you unlock the second map area, you will need to go to this campfire place. You will find the guy to talk to, and then he will end up being up here, the next Melodies of Peace. You will gather those oddities by going to these little butterfly icons. You can see it's a little black symbol there that I could go to right now, and they're just like little mini games, either picking up a nest on a roof, catching a rat, or activating a flower and doing the task. But this guy again has another big tree where you can get all of these extra stat points. The final tip is your assistant. When you go to fight these bosses, you have the option of calling a companion assistant. The very first time you face the boss, you won't have this option, so you could just let him kill you. But when you respawn, you can see you have that companion assist. Interacting with it will allow you to summon an assistant. And I recommend Ye Deo's Spirit. You will see many other people suggesting him too. He's kind of a tank, so he will taunt the boss, and then the boss can sometimes focus him instead of you. He won't die, and he will also provide you a heal sometimes. And this heal is pretty huge because you otherwise only gain heal through your potions, depending on what weapon combo you're using. And if you are using the healing fan or the healing umbrella, the healing output is reduced by 80% in these fights, again because of that debuff that they give you. These are the world bosses. The story bosses that you have to beat, there's only 3 of them right now, are fairly easy because you can crutch the healer fan. They do not have that debuff to your healing, but these guys do, so you need to find heals elsewhere. And again, that tank companion assist helps massively for that. Also, if you do not run a taunt yourself, he will draw the aggro of the boss quite frequently. This can be both a good thing and a bad thing though. It's a good thing because it will relieve the pressure off you, giving you a little bit of a break in the fights and allow you to get some extra damage in just through your own abilities. But it's a bad thing in terms of you will have less attacks to parry, because the more attacks you can parry, the quicker you will get your enemy's chi down, and thus the quicker you'll be able to output more damage to the actual boss's hit points, and thus get through the fight faster. So there is a tip for tat there. But this companion assist is quite the game changer to get through these bosses for the first time. If you want to go to the trial versions, I believe you won't be able to use the companion assist, so you will have to learn to do these fights without them, which will just end up requiring you to learn to parry all of the attacks, learning those patterns and when you actually need to parry. I still miss a ton of parries, and so this companion assist combined with the extra amount of potions you can use goes a long way to being able to just clear these bosses for the first time, rather than it taking multiple tries and you just dying and getting depressed because you're not able to beat the boss. Ultimately, I hope these 5 tips help you out just as much as they did for me. Again, last night, in the span of just an hour or so, I went through 6 legend bosses from just 5. Just with these tips alone, after spending a bit of time doing the questing out in the open world and actually getting those character improvements and using that tank companion assist. Do not underestimate it. And the majority of these bosses I got through first try without having to have learned any of their attack patterns. That's how advantageous these tips are. And again, I hope they help you out just as much they did for me. This is again on legend difficulty. Any of the lower difficulties, I assume these boss fights will be significantly easier already, especially if you use parry assist, deflect assist. So that's it for this one. Thanks all for watching, and another massive thank you to all my channel members. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.